Ladies and gentlemen, I am Teacher Soft, and today we're going to be learning Roman numerals. Okay. These are tallies. Don't ever make the mistake of putting tallies down because you're not thinking straight and you're just thinking Roman numerals because Roman numerals, they do lines. You see how there's lines. You see what's going on here? How you can construe these two things if you're just not thinking straight. So what I want to go over today is the actual Roman numerals, so this is a dash, okay? It's not a 1 because in Roman numerals they don't have a 2. And if they don't have a 2, well, they don't have a 1 either. Even though it looks like a 1, it's just a dash. So what you have is four dashes. We're still on line with our checks here. The thing is, once you get 4, if you go to 5, what you're going to want here, let's draw a separator here. When you get to 5, it's a V. Okay? And you go 5, 6, 7, 8. Now 9, do a dash. And when we get to 10, it's an X. Right? So it's factors of 5s and 10s. So, that'd be 20. That would be the equivalent of X. I don't even know how they wouldn't put two 5s together. You can't because you just put an X. But I believe this and this means the same thing. It all means 5. Okay. Now, there's a bit of subtraction when it comes to Roman numerals. So, let's say I start with a 5 and I put an X, I put a dash here. That is 6. But if the dash comes before the V, this would actually mean 4. So when you're writing 4, you wouldn't actually go 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd go 1V. Or you'd go dash V. If that makes sense. So following that same logic, let's use this area right here. Say I draw an X. Okay. It's 11. But if it comes before the X, which is the larger number, 10, 9. That's a 9. Okay? So, if I go VX, the V comes before the bigger number, which is an X. So this actually still just equals 5, I think. And so if I want X, V, and the X comes first, which is the bigger one, and then the smaller number, the V, you have 10, 5. I mean, you have 15, okay? You following me so far? Okay. So, let's say I'm playing my my favorite video game, FFV11. Let's say I'm like 8 years old and I see FFV11. Go Final Fantasy. Okay? This is how a good kid could see video games and see FF5, 6, 7 compared to F, FF-V. That would be Final Fantasy VI. A very popular game with a lot of people before my time. I wasn't into the JRPGs back then. This one here really brought me in. I tried to play this later as an adult, but we're talking like 2015, 2018. By then it was just too late for me. And the nostalgia was gone. I didn't even understand the giggling gestures and all that. It was just, it was alright. I don't know, Super Nintendo graphics in 2018 just weren't the same for me without the nostalgia. But as a kid, I did favor, and this is the real controversy right here. F, V, dash, dash, dash. Now, a lot of people would disagree with this one right here, but I think I didn't understand video games at the time. So when I played FFV111, I loved it because I thought it was a continuation of this new genre of game I had just found in FFV11. I really thought that would be continuation, and for me it was. I don't think I even read the text boxes. I just played blindly. For that reason, I never beat it. I mean, I beat it in adulthood, but I never beat it back then. Okay, so let's take you back to the wild year of 2002, maybe 2003. Now, there's this very popular girl in class, and she was excited that she was playing FFX. And she was loudly proclaiming, "I'm so happy to be playing FFX." And she was just going around saying that, like, "Oh yeah, my favorite game is FFX." And I was like, knowing that there was an FFV1 dash dash, and, or some would say FFV11 just because they look like ones, but they're dashes, trust me. There's no 2, there cannot be a 1. The concept of 1 as a number was not a thing, just like the concept of 2. It was dashes. 1 and 2 were just 2 ones. Anyway, knowing this very popular cheerleader, if you will, was going through class bragging that her favorite game was FFX, and knowing that there was an FF-V and an FFV-dash, and to me at that time there was nothing before that really. I would later discover that you don't start things at number 6. In fact, there were 5 games before this, depending on whether you're Japanese or American, but that's a whole nother story. This was actually FF-dash. I think they just used 3. That's not the point of this story. And knowing for me that there was an FFV-dash. And then after it, a game that I actually did not really enjoy that much. I mean, it was okay, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. There was an FFV-dash. Okay? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. FF9. And then they went from FF9 to FFX. So I simply walked up to her in all of my great wisdom as a 14-year-old boy, or 15, possibly 16. Time flies. And I said, "This right here is not in fact an X. And you, milady, are saying the name wrong, because it is indeed not F, F, X. It is F, F, 10. And she looked at me and she said, "Get away from me, loser." I'm 36 and I still think about that. She was wrong, by the way. And she got to live her whole life thinking it was FFX and not, in fact, FF10. Look at me now, Jessica. Look at me now. Teaching ASMR on YouTube. Moving on. Okay, I figured my arm would be getting a little sore, so let's get a little more intimate here. And let's just go, what kind of a number is this? Now, there are other variables and letters that represent, such as 50 and 100. But they confuse the hell out of me, and I've never actually paid attention. That's why whenever I look at a Super Bowl logo, I just count X's. And then, like for instance, you ever see the Super Bowl logo? That is a weird looking L. See how they have like, right? I think this means 50. Is an L a 50 or is an L might be a 20? What is an L in Roman numerals? Get back to me. It's either 20 or 50. I think it might be 20. We're not worried about that today. What we're worried about is we got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 1, 2, 3. Okay. There's also, I believe, a Roman numeral letter that represents 100. Now, I also don't know what that is. I'm hoping we get to Super Bowl 100 so I can one day discover. Because, for instance, to go back to the, here, let me just, we have to be conservative with space here. I don't remember if the girl's name was actually Jessica, to be honest. Suck it, I don't even remember your name. It's 10. Susan. I don't know if her name was Susan either. Okay. We're hoping Super Bowl gets to this many. Not the 3. Because we just need to know what symbol is 100. Could I Google it? Yeah, but that takes the glory away from waiting. Wow, what's Super Bowl, 50 some years? It just takes it away from waiting another 50 years. Or however many years there's been a Super Bowl. Plus what else they gotta get to get to 100. Just to find out what letter is 100 in Roman numerals. And I would say I'm waiting on the Final Fantasies. But right now, we are at Final Fantasy X V dash. Okay. Is this an I? This might be an I, actually. I think it'd be XVI. Saying dash just feels wrong to me. It only makes sense that if they're using letters, that the dash would also be a letter. So we're at Final Fantasy XVI. And if I was talking to Jessica Susan would be proudly proclaiming to the class that her favorite game is Final Fantasy XVI. Now, we all know through our studies that XVI is not correct. It's 10, 15, 16. In fact, we're on Final Fantasy 16. Jessica Susan. And if I were to point this out, you would be the idiot, not me. Why would I be the idiot? I'm right. I'm right here. You're wrong. Jessica Susan. Or Crystal. Whatever your name is. Anyway, you can see how we started when I was a child, when I was 8, with F, V, 1, 1. One of the greatest games ever made. And in that amount of time, and this is around 1997, we've gone 9, or someone call it 9. How did I draw Final Fantasy 9 earlier? I think this is how you do 9. I totally did 9 wrong earlier. You wouldn't need all the I's here. You just do X, you do IX, 10, 9. Don't go with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's logically all backwards. Anyways, 9. That's how many years from here to here. It's a lot of years. Mainly because F, I believe it was 14. So you go, how would you do IV? Does that make sense? Does that not make sense? I think this is 14. But for now, we'll just put okay. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 10, 15, 14. That works, right? Student, you know. Anyway, as you can see, Final Fantasy XIV was what we like to call a live game. And for me, my parents would not pay a monthly subscription for anything. And so I did not get to participate in that game. Hence, not understanding which way they went with the Roman numerals. Because I wasn't there, you see. Now, because this is a live game and someone say live service, they spent years just working on this game live, just pumping it out. And all the time, I was not allowed to pay a subscription. And so it was years before I would get to play another FF game. And so you can see my bitterness that something I was not allowed to participate in made it so there was something else that I could no longer participate in. But that's okay because it really fell off the rails anyway. So this is what we're talking about here. Also, we're making a thumbnail right now. So, in conclusion, Jessica, Susan, Kristen, you're wrong. This is 10. And you've spent your whole life being wrong because you couldn't listen to me in 2002. That's an X. And now, if you'll excuse me, the baby's crying.